Hallo liebe Reisegruppe und willkommen zu unserer zweiten Tour durch Sighișoara. Hier ist es heute wunderschönes, sonniges Wetter und wir haben wieder relativ viel vor. Ich hoffe, dass es mit dem einigermaßen gut funktioniert, denn heute auf unserem Plan steht der Stundturm. Da wollten wir die letzten Male schon immer hin. Das hat ja zeitlich nicht ganz so gut geklappt. Heute sollte das gut passen, denn der Ruhetag gestern ist nun vorbei. Der Stadtturm oder der Turm an der Stadtmauer hat jetzt geöffnet, der mit der großen Uhr. Und hier kommen wir nicht weiter, wir ein bisschen in die Richtung. Da spazieren wir jetzt auch als erstes auf unserer heutigen kleinen Ausflugstour hin. Eigentlich wollte ich heute mit euch nach Biertan fahren, aber ich dachte, wir müssen morgen sowieso in die Richtung. Können wir das auch morgen mitnehmen und heute eine kleine Museumstour machen. Es gibt so 2, 3 kleine Museen, die ich mir gerne noch anschauen will mit euch. Kleine Info vorweg, wenn wir im Museum sind, dann rede ich nicht mit euch, dann halte ich die Klappe und zeige euch einfach nur, was es da so zu sehen gibt. Aber erstmal müssen wir uns hinbegeben, deswegen geben wir mal Gas. Und wir spazieren dann auch runter zu der Kirche, die wir gestern nur noch von außen gesehen haben. Also wieder volles Programm. Ich drehe euch direkt die Kamera, denn ihr wollt ja die Umgebung sehen und nicht die ganze Zeit mich angucken. Mich kennt ihr, die Umgebung kennt ihr noch nicht. Jetzt als erstes runter zum Turm. Um zum Turm zu kommen, klettert man auch durch das Kunstmuseum, durch das Geschichtsmuseum so rum. Das sehen wir dadurch als erstes. Ist klein und übersichtlich, aber soll sehr schön sein. Dann gibt es noch ein zweites, etwas größeres Museum. Das schauen wir uns danach im Anschluss auch noch an. Ich saß schon wieder in der Nachrichtenecke. Ich wollte eigentlich gerade mit euch Nachrichten machen. Dann ist mir aber aufgefallen, Moment, ich weiß nicht genau, wie lange der Turm offen hat. Machen wir das lieber als erstes. Und die Nachrichten kommen dann im Anschluss. Ich habe auch schon den weiteren Verlauf unserer Sommertour ein bisschen geplant. Morgen fahren wir zum Reiterhof. Und auf dem Weg zum Reiterhof, da kann man nämlich erst so gegen 15 Uhr dann das Basislager beziehen. Auf dem Weg zum Reiterhof halten wir in Biertan an. Eine kleine Überraschung fürs Wochenende habe ich auch noch für euch, denn es hat sich nun ganz spontan ergeben, dass am Wochenende ein weiteres Mittelalterfestival stattfindet. Dieses Mal in Honedora. Das nehmen wir natürlich ebenfalls mit. Und dafür habe ich uns auch schon ein Basislager organisiert. Aber jetzt spazieren wir erstmal die Treppe runter. Oh, ich sehe gerade, die Linse ist wieder etwas beschlagen. Moment, ich wische da mal rüber. Gebt mir mal eine Sekunde. So, jetzt sollte das Bild auch klar sein. Wir haben heute perfektes sonniges Wetter, etwa 26 Grad, ist also super für eine weitere Erkundungstour. Ich hatte auch überlegt, ob wir noch mal hier in die Kirche spazieren, aber das entscheiden wir nachher dann ganz spontan, weil die kennt ihr ja bereits. Wir gucken uns erstmal die Sachen an, die ihr noch nicht gesehen habt. Heute ist auch wieder deutlich mehr los in Sighișoara und unser Sightseeing-Traktor, mit dem wir gestern gefahren sind, der redet heute auch noch. Hat er gestern nicht gemacht. Also heute gibt es auch eine Erklärung mit auf der Sightseeing-Tour. Aber schaut euch mal dieses mega schöne Wetter an. Jetzt gleich nicht wundern, während wir die Treppe runterspazieren, könnte es sein, dass da wieder ein Funkloch ist, nur dass ihr Bescheid wisst. Funktioniert aber dann gleich wieder. Hier nochmal die Schule, aber die habt ihr jetzt auch schon einige Male gesehen. Geben wir erstmal Gas, damit wir runter zum Turm kommen. Das, was klappert, ist mein Schlüssel. Da nicht verwundern, ich habe nicht allzu viele Taschen, deswegen habe ich mir den einfach an die Hose gehangen. Musik gibt es heute im Durchgang auch. Jetzt ist allerdings anscheinend gerade Pause, wie es aussah. Als ich vorhin hochgeklettert bin, wurde auch wieder Musik gespielt. Hier rechts ist unser Basislager, wie ihr wisst, und wir spazieren direkt runter zum Marktplatz und dann wenden wir uns nach rechts und laufen zum Stundturm. Hier vorne links in dem Grünhaus ist ein Museum, da will ich dann auch noch mit euch, aber erst zum Turm, denn das hier hat definitiv länger offen und beim Turm weiß ich es nicht ganz so genau. Deswegen ist der Turm unsere erste Station. Falls wir wieder einen Trollangriff haben, hier ist der Pranger schon aufgebaut. Für unsere Haustrolle kann die Jay sie dann alle ransperren. Aber bisher scheint es ja ruhig zu sein. Hier könnt ihr euch ein Eis mitnehmen, falls ihr Lust habt. Wenn ihr auch nur ein virtuelles bekommt, könnt ihr euch zumindest vorstellen, dass es jetzt Eis gibt. Aber spazieren wir erstmal weiter. So, dort ist der Turm mit dem historischen Museum. Hambi war montags hier, da war der Turm leider geschlossen. Jep, das habe ich gestern auch bemerkt. Montags ist Ruhetag. Und deswegen klettern wir da heute hoch. Und da sind auch schon einige Touristen oben. Und direkt links vom Türmchen, da wo es reingeht, ist das historische Museum. Ich glaube, die Waffenkammer können wir auch noch anschauen. Die hat, glaube ich, auch bis 18 Uhr oder so auf. Das machen wir dann danach. Deswegen holt euch was Bequemes, holt euch was zu trinken, setzt euch bequem hin und genießt unsere zweite Tour durch Sighișoara. Heute steht der Langoschwagen auch wieder hier, der war gestern auch nicht da. Wir spazieren jetzt rein, ich kaufe uns Eintrittskarten und dann werde ich wahrscheinlich relativ wenig sagen. Ich zeige euch dann die Sachen, weil es ist halt relativ voll und es ist dann doch ein bisschen peinlich, wenn ich da mit meinem Handy quatschen durchs Museum spaziere. Ich glaube, das ist nachvollziehbar. Wir unterhalten uns dann danach wieder. Kleine Kommentare aus dem Off werden sicher trotzdem kommen, aber dass sich jetzt keiner wundert. Ich zeige euch erstmal, was los ist und drüber reden tun wir dann im Anschluss. Bună ziua! Unu? Da.
Da, uite frumos cu sigla care și
Mulțumesc! So, da seht ihr das Modell der Stadt. Wir sind oben von der Kirche runterspaziert, um jetzt am Turm anzukommen. Schaut mal, das wäre was für zu Hause.
Je prends la photo, ça va. Falls mich jemand sucht, ich bin Möbel kaufen. Kleiner Scherz. Aber gefällt mir.
asta e lată de destre. Deci, destre înseamnă că mă ca femeile trebuia să aibă o lată carta, în care să aibă periclar și dacă ar fi tot un muzeograf, vă spunea despre fiecare figurină asta ceva că înseamnă ceva. Să vă dea Dumnezeu sănătate, fericire, mulți copii, să aveți belșug, să aveți recoltă bună, să nu aveți parte de dulcere, de foc, să aveți apă doar după vreme din casă, o să vă povestesc peretele.
Erau foarte urâte?
Ihr seht, wir haben es geschafft. Wir sind oben auf dem Turm. Jetzt sollte auch der Empfang wieder funktionieren. Die Mauern, die sind relativ dick. Das heißt, mitunter sind da kleine Funklöcher auf dem Durchmarsch oder auf dem Aufstieg. Aber jetzt sollte es richtig gut laufen, hoffe ich. Denn das müsst ihr in guter Qualität und bestenfalls in HD sehen. Schaut euch das an. Dann gerade noch bei diesem schönen Wetter mit dieser Sonne überall. Und da die alte Stadtmauer. Ich glaube, bis Athen sind es noch 900 Kilometer. Hat sich doch gelohnt, der Aufstieg. Litzo schreibt, man müsste da mal irgendwo eine Ballonfahrt machen können. Ich weiß gar nicht, ob es ja sowas gibt, aber bestimmt.
Am trecut casa!
Stimmt, in Absurdistan hätte man jetzt wahrscheinlich überall hier Absperrungen. Aber hier kann man die Aussicht ohne Gitterzaun genießen. Ich habe übrigens keine Ahnung, wo Dinkelsbühl liegt, aber ihr könnt ja mal für Aufklärung sorgen im Chat. Hier steht nämlich tatsächlich Dinkelsbühl ausgeschrieben. Berlin habe ich noch nicht gefunden. Kann aber sein, dass da gerade die anderen Leute davor stehen. Aber möglicherweise hat man Berlin es dann hier auch einfach schon abgeschafft. Ah, Dinkelsbühl ist in der Nähe von Nürnberg. Danke für die Info. Reisegruppe, bevor wir wieder runterklettern, drehen wir noch mal eine Runde in die andere Richtung, um den Turm herum. Ist ja gerade nicht allzu voll. Hier ist ja nicht so, dass hier oben irgendwie Stau wäre oder sowas. Ich hoffe, ihr habt einigermaßen guten Empfang.
15.000.
Oh, città di Castello. Belgrado.
Capitale è, scusa?
Madrid.
Madrid, poi di questi sono pochi, di là c'è Stundturm, niente.
Figo.
Bello.
Sì, non ci sono molte protezioni, Come? Non ci stanno molte protezioni,
È vero, però meglio così, ma no, non riesco a fotografare niente.
Stoccolma.
Dopo...
Ti rendi conto quanto poco basta per fare 22 euro?
Hier habe ich übrigens gerade Neu-Isengard zuerst gelesen, statt Isenburg. Also möglicherweise ist auch Isengard in der Nähe. Und den Südpol gibt es auch, der ist auch schon ausgeschildert. Als nächstes auf unserer heutigen Liste steht dann direkt das nächste Museum hier um die Ecke. Dürfte das Waffenmuseum sein, aber ganz sicher.
Fammi vedere panorama. È una bellissima festa. C'è Zamosco.
Beijing, scusa, è in Cina, ma non è la capitale. Edo. Edo.
So, dann klettern wir langsam wieder nach unten, denn das ein oder andere Museum haben wir ja noch zum Anschauen. Deswegen auf geht's wieder runter. Könnte sein, dass der Empfang da wieder weg ist. Ihr kennt ja das Spiel, aber drückt die Daumen, dass es funktioniert.
Ierusalim. 1807. Metri. Atena. Mă, uite, Atena aici.
La chambre à torture.
Adică 42 sau 24 de ani are. Următoarea să fie cu
Da DJ es sich gewünscht hat, hier das Uhrwerk. Ich hoffe, ihr seht was.
jetzt, da? Încet, da? Lăsăm oamenii să urce prima dată. Așa. Gata. Scuză. Hai.
Îmi dau seama acum cât de mare e ăsta.
Da. No, bine, scot la treabă. Ani, vine amenință cu doi prieteni, pe la 5:30. Îmi viu eu de la 1.
So, damit hätten wir das erste Museum für heute besichtigt. Wir waren oben auf dem Stadtturm, auf dem Uhrenturm hinter mir. Können wir also weiter spazieren zum nächsten Museum. Das ist ungefähr 50 Meter entfernt. Wir haben also heute ein sehr, sehr enges Programm im wahrsten Sinne des Wortes. Wir müssen nicht allzu viel dazwischen laufen. Ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen und wir steuern, würde ich sagen, direkt den nächsten Turm an. Und dazu drehe ich euch aber die Sicht auch wieder. Denn dort befindet sich das nächste Museum. Und da oben standen wir gerade. Ach, der Schmiedeturm ist es hier. So, mal Geld suchen, eine Sekunde. Bună ziua!
Adult?
Da. Mulțumesc!
Stabilită în anul 1642, în forma sa inițială 300 de trepte și acoperită cu șindrilă. În anul 1842 modificată, astăzi numărând 176 de trepte. Turul poziționarilor are o înălțime de 25 de metri, bază de comunară, trunchi de formă pentagonală, urmat de ultimul etaj octogonal și un acoperiș hexagonal cu laturi inegale. Liceul Iosef Hagel din Transilvania este clasat ca monument istoric. Orașul de jos reprezintă simbolurile săptămânii, iar spre cetate pacea, justiția și Vlad are fost admirat. Și în iarna lui 1461, armata Valahiei a pustit linia Dunării și a pierzării mulțime nenumărate de problemi. Așa e spravă, Vlad și-a pregătit țara de război și a așteptat. În arșița de armata otomană mai da prin câmpiile Valahiei, numărând sute de mii de oșteri. Drumul lor spre Târgoviște au fost hărțuiți zi și noapte de oastea Valahilor, care arseseră câmpurile, otrăviseră fântânile, pustiseră satele și care apărea, trăia nenicilor și spachii și dispărea ca o muncă. Așa înțelise. În noaptea aceea de iunie, 1462, scrisă în istorie, Vlad și-a develat mantia de domn creștin și împreună cu asta lui a îmbrăcat străine spachii. Ca un fulger, a străbătut la tabăra otomană de-a lungul și de-a latul se în panică, groază și confuzie între turci care nu mai pricepeau care duși barbara și care războană. Viața e bine de jumătate din ordinea lui Mehmed, încă și-a cuvântul țării românești. Europa și țara românească erau izvorite de primejdii cea mare a secolului. Gătiți glăchile lui cele bune și folositoare să nu țineți minte pentru acolea. El de câte ori va fi să vă memorială despre el. Dați-vă că este anul vostru și Vlad este cultul de pe stema țării românești. Fluierașul. Un mas medieval german vorbește despre fluierașul din Hameln, despre pastorul care cu flautul său fermecat și-a scăpat orașul pe șoareci, însă nerăsplătit, i-a devenit pe copiii orașului în galerii subterane. O poveste să se spune că
trotzdem ein bisschen was mitbekommen. Denn gut, das war jetzt ein eher kleiner, der Film ging um die 10 Minuten, aber man hat ein bisschen was zur Geschichte gelernt. Bei mir am Handy nur für und theoretisch sollte ich ja irgendwann dann auch mal Untertitel im Stream bereitstellen. Das heißt, eigentlich könnt ihr dann später den Stream auch nochmal mit Untertiteln schauen. Da versteht ihr es dann auch. Ich drehe die Sicht mal wieder. Hier allerdings gerade so hell, da sehe ich keine Kommentare. Ich muss mal kurz in den Schatten. Und genießen die Sicht. Wir spazieren dann auch gleich weiter zum nächsten Museum. Hier in dem Turm ist im Prinzip eine kleine Ausstellung. Nicht unbedingt. Ich habe ganz oft irgendwelche Leute im Chat, oder nicht im Chat, eher so in den Videokommentaren, die sich darüber echauffieren, wie ich denn ein Bild vom bösen Vlad in meinem Studio haben kann. Ja, ganz einfach, der war nämlich nicht böse. Ohne Vlad gibt es wahrscheinlich kein Europa, wie es heute ausschaut. Also, jetzt habt ihr ein klein wenig zur Geschichte hören können. Denn das, was da an, in Anführungszeichen, Gerüchten rumgeht, wie böse und gemein, ein bisschen Umfang, die Story können wir noch mal in Ruhe reden. Aber ganz viele der Schauergeschichten kamen von der Kirche, die sich ein bisschen vor den Kopf geschossen gefühlt hat, weil Vlad ja durchaus, nennen wir es mal, sehr umfangreiche temporäre Bündnisse eingegangen ist. Das fand die Kirche mitunter nicht so geil und deswegen gab es damals eine ziemliche Hetzkampagne gegen ihn. Aber spazieren wir mal weiter und wandern zum nächsten Museum, denn wir haben noch einiges vor. Kann nur sein, dass wir irgendwann zwischendurch dann mal ganz kurz bei uns einkehren müssen, um die Powerbank zu holen, aber noch habe ich keine Akkuwarnung gekriegt. Und richtig Papillon, das Fehlen damals war absolut üblich im Mittelalter. Das hat nicht nur Vlad gemacht, das haben so ziemlich alle gemacht. Und er musste sich halt was einfallen lassen, denn die kleine Walachei, die ist jetzt nicht unbedingt so die große Militärmacht gewesen im Vergleich zu den Osmanen. Und da war eben damals die Strategie, auf Abschreckung zu setzen. Das hat unter anderem mit beinhaltet, um die 20.000 Osmanen vor Tagowichte aufzuspießen, aber das hat eben auch geholfen. So, da war anscheinend wieder ein kleines Funkloch. Da war wohl das Haus im Weg. Und seht und hört ihr wieder was? Ah, jetzt geht's wieder. Sehr gut. Läuft wieder. Perfekt. Dann laufen wir auch wieder und spazieren zu unserem nächsten Ziel. Klaus schreibt, ich hätte das auch so gemacht. Das ist tatsächlich gar nicht so falsch, wenn man so einer militärischen Übermacht gegenübersteht. Da kann man eben nicht unbedingt, nennen wir es mal, zimperlich sein. Und da war das damals die einzige Möglichkeit, um die Osmanen zu besiegen. Also von daher muss man die Sachen im zeitlichen Kontext sehen. Wo ich gerade bin, na, immer noch in Sighișoara. Wir stehen jetzt hier vor dem Verwaltungsgebäude und spazieren jetzt weiter zum nächsten Museum. Ich gucke mal kurz, wie viel... Nee, ich gucke jetzt nicht, wie viel Akku wir haben. Ich kriege mit, wenn Akkuwarnung kommt. Und unser Basislager ist hier halt direkt um die Ecke. Und ihr guckt wieder vorne raus. Wir haben übrigens Kultur und die Sonne scheint. Hier ist die Klosterkirche, für die es interessiert. Ach ja, Kirche, wir müssen nachher noch zur Kirche laufen. Die darf ich nicht vergessen. Und hier nochmal der Uhrenturm. Jetzt haben wir auch das Uhrwerk gesehen. Und da ist auch wieder unser kleiner Sightseeing-Traktor von gestern. Jetzt wandern wir aber erstmal zum nächsten Museum. Franz fragt, wie das Abendessen gestern war. Mega. Also wenn ihr was futtern wollt, hier im Roten Häuschen kann ich definitiv empfehlen, wählt da die Ente. Und wir wandern jetzt hoch zum nächsten Museum. Da geht es auch noch mal ein bisschen um die Geschichte und auch um so ein paar Hintergründe zum historischen Vlad. So, dann suche ich mal wieder kurz Geld raus und dann geht es rein ins nächste Museum bzw. in die nächste Ausstellung.
You are studying?
Oh, yes.
Oh, what are you studying? Come with me, please.
Yeah.
I have a few minutes to go to the next one because the story.
In the 15th century, a boy was born. He was the grandson of Mircea the Elder, a great Romanian ruler and the son of Vlad Dracul, who was under the protection of King Sigismund of Hungary, a fierce anti-Ottoman fighter who later became the Holy Roman Emperor. In 1408, King Sigismund had founded the Order of the Dragon, an order of chivalry destined to Europe and fight the Ottoman Empire. In its place were three kingdoms. In the northeast was the Kingdom of Moldavia, my mother's homeland. In the south was Wallachia, Transylvania, part of the Hungarian Kingdom. The Ottoman Empire was a big threat for Europe. Their wings spread wide, conquering everything in their path in southeastern Europe, the Middle East, and other places. And now they were on the threshold to our country. If Wallachia would fall, the Ottomans could roam free in Europe without anyone opposing them. So we had to defend our country, our lives. My father fought Ottomans, as had his father and father before him. And both me and my two brothers, Mircea and Radu, were meant to follow in his footsteps. Who am I? You may know me as Vlad Tepes, the Impaler, but my real name is Vlad Dracula III, a Wallachian prince and the heir to my homeland. This is the story of my life and how I choose to remember it. Wish for his people to die in war, and so Wallachia became a tributary state to the Ottoman Empire, paying 10,000 coins every year so they could live in peace. In order for my father to show his goodwill, my brother Radu and I were to be brought to the Sultan as hostages, as insurance that the Wallachians would remain loyal to the Ottoman Empire. In the year 1442, everything changed for us. I remember it like yesterday. I lost everything except my youngest brother. My duty from then on would be to keep him safe and watch over him for the rest of our lives. I'm known for my overwhelming cruelness, and am often referred to as being the inspiration behind Bram Stoker's horror novel, Dracula. But let me make your acquaintance with the real Vlad the Impaler and his connection to the city of Sighișoara you are currently visiting. The fact that he chose to make peace with the Ottomans filled Janko of Hunedoara, king of the Hungarian Empire, with rage. He had fought many battles against the Ottomans, some of which he'd won, some he'd lost. But peace with the enemy, never. This was seen as the deepest kind of betrayal. He sent an army with the sole purpose of killing my father, Vlad Dracul, and my eldest brother, Mircea. My father was decapitated, and my brother's eyes were burned out after he was buried alive. My family was dead. My homeland was left in chaos, as many had claimed to have a right to the throne. But I was the only righteous heir to the throne. We had the luxury of being taught in their ways, logics, the Quran, Turkish and Persian, literature, and even their war strategies. Their lessons were much more advanced than any I had ever received. Their technology was superior in every way, their armor and weapons deadlier than most. I longed for my kept alive only because of my blood and was even pale. I would never be able to forget all the death I saw in this time. I was forever changed. My biggest fears came true when Radu converted to Islam. Later known as Radu the Handsome, he became the favorite of the crown prince of the Ottoman Empire, Mehmed. I had lost another brother. The year 1448 changed everything for me. After my father and older brother were brutally killed, I managed to convince the Sultan to let me rule my homeland and follow in my father's footsteps. He agreed on one condition. I had to accept the Sultan's suzerainty, his superiority, and had to pledge my allegiance to Murad II. Although this would make Wallachia its puppet state, I decided this offer and to wait for the right moment to switch sides, finally claim what was rightfully mine. And so I returned home at the age of 17. As I started my first rule, I swore to never forget the sacrifice. I only held the power for 8 weeks before those important boyars, led by Vladislav II, united and stood up against me. I was not strong enough to fight them off, so my only option was to flee. I was homeless and without country, didn't belong anywhere. I, the royal prince, the rightful ruler of Wallachia, was a fugitive hiding and running from danger. I could not trust anyone, for everyone wanted my death. I fled to Moldavia, my mother's homeland, living with my uncle Prince Bogdan II and his son Stefan, later known as the Great, a future important ruler of Moldavia. So much of my family that I swore to all the gods that I would protect and support them. My own brother, Gettr, a man who was the power couldn't protect me. I feared for my life. To the Hungarian king, Sighișoara, because I knew that he hated the current ruler of Wallachia, Vladislav II, as well. I convinced Janko to let me get rid of Vladislav II so that we could fight the Ottomans together, stop paying tribute. On the 20th of August in the year 1456, I finally got my vengeance on Vladislav and decapitated him after a, not to brag, easy hand-to-hand combat. I had finally won. In this moment of victory, I did not fit the promises I had made to the ones who had helped me. I kept my oath and sent an army of 1,000 soldiers to support my friend Stefan the Great to conquer the throne of Moldavia in 1457. But while helping my friends was important, I had to strengthen my position as well. I fortified my claim to the throne by getting rid of my father's enemies, the ones that had betrayed him. I had to punish the boyars who supported Vladislav, the ones who helped with the murder of my father and brother. On Easter Day 1450, I invited the boyars with their families to a banquet for a meal of reconciliation. It exists, ancient by now, but surrounded by amazing views of the mountains. I also killed Saxon merchants from Brasov. These merchants refused to pay the taxes, sided with the boyars, and they warned me more than once that this would have consequences. They did not listen. So I kept my word, and as punishment I crossed over the Wallachian border and attacked the city Brasov and burned one of its suburbs. The prisoners were dragged to the mountain timber park, and there we did what I'm known for. We impaled them and watched them die while we enjoyed a small dinner. Because of this, the Saxons from Transylvania turned against me and started to spread exaggerated rumors and stories about my cruelness and thirst for blood. There are so many other things that happened during this time. Let me tell you one of my favorite stories. As you may know, I despise the beggars and the homeless. I can't explain why, but I had to get rid of them. So I had the brilliant idea of inviting them to a banquet at the royal court. I had the room decorated with fresh flowers and curtains of the finest silk. The tables were set with golden dishes and so much food that your eyes could not see the end of the table. The finest wines of Wallachia were served, and the best musicians came just for this banquet. Their music would take you to a whole new world in which you could not stop smiling. There were dancers who moved in a way that made you ask yourself, how was it possible for a simple human to look as graceful as that? Everybody was smiling and enjoying the moment, forgetting their problems and sorrows. When they were all satisfied, I asked them if they wanted an end to their poverty. Think about it. What would your answer have been? Of course, each one of them happily answered this question with yes. So I locked them all in the hall and set the hall on fire. No one survived, and none of them would ever be poor or hungry again. 3 years after cleansing my homeland of scum and fortifying my position as a ruler, my eyes were set on my ultimate life goal, defeating the Ottoman Empire. The first step was refusing to pay the Ottoman Empire their yearly tribute of 10,000 gold coins. Why would we, as free men, have to pay tribute? Two Ottoman soldiers came into my castle, like they did every year, and asked for the Sultan's payment. I, being ever the merciful ruler, asked them to take off their turbans and greet me properly in my home. Soldiers declined my request and made a fool out of me in front of my entire court. They did not want to part with their turbans. Not a problem. I would help them. I had my guards bring up nails and a hammer and hold them. Then ordered my guards to nail the turbans to their heads so they would never have to part with them again. That year happened to be the exact same year the Pope wanted to organize and finance a crusade against the Ottomans. This would be a long-awaited chance to have my revenge against the Sultan. So, I formed a military alliance with Matei Corvin, the Hungarian ruler who took over after Yakov Nevar's death. When Sultan Mehmed II heard of this alliance, he sent Hamza Pasha in the winter of 1461 to ambush and assassinate me. Assassinate me, the great impaler? What a fool. I really thought that Mehmed would know me better. After all, we'd grown up together. And so I planned an ambush of my own. I ordered a small amount of servants to accompany me and pretend that we had the Sultan's tribute. What they did not know was that at the same time, I ordered my army to take a different path towards Juju. I had some of my advancing. A few wished it. The Sultan may have left, but my enemies were gathering against me. Betrayal. Radu managed to get the support of most of the boyars, promising the Sultan Pennsylvania. Still having my arms, that could have been predicted. The Hungarian king changed his mind and imprisoned me. To justify this surprising arrest, Corvin presented 3 letters, supposedly written by me, in which I had offered the Sultan his support for conquering Transylvania. This didn't make any sense. One would think that after all I went through just to come here, to return home. In the year 1474, Matei Corvin wanted me to join Stefan Batory because even after all those years, every single Ottoman still trembled at the sound of my name. We fought against the Turks in Serbia and Bosnia. We aided Stefan the Great to regain his position in Moldavia when Mehmed himself attacked him. After Laiuta Basarab. 1 month after obtaining the throne, Laiuta returned with an Ottoman army. Again, I urged Matei Corvin to aid me because I didn't yet have an army of my own. And now it's night. I'm laying in this bed, thinking about all that has led me to this point, wondering how I can win this battle with so few men, thinking of yet another the answers. Tomorrow, victory will be mine. And then all my evenings will be spent watching my children grow up, watch the sunset over the Valachian mountains. What Vlad the Imperial did not know was that that would be his last night on Earth. The long-awaited victory from Stefan the Great. We believe that he was defeated in battle and decapitated by Laiuta Basarab. Only 10 soldiers sent by Stefan the Great survived the battle when Vlad Dracula was caught and killed. If he had indeed been betrayed by the boyars, these soldiers would have informed Stefan the Great, and we would know, for he would have avenged his friend and cousin. No one knows about the final moments of Vlad Dracula, king of Wallachia, what went through his head when he realized the end was near. Legend says that he was buried in Bucharest, in a church called Comana, and that his head was sent to Constantinople, where the Sultan had it impaled and displayed for everyone to see. And with his death, he gave birth to many legends, stories, and novels that still inspire many to this very day. Some think of him as a cruel ruler, a blood-seeking tyrant. Others see him as a hero or as a just ruler. The choice of how you want to see Vlad Dracula is entirely your own.
Great, yeah.
Yeah. Terrace. And you have a 10% discount on the first drink because you visited both of them.
And the second one?
You have two buttons. The green button for the English, sorry, and if the timer is on, it means it's somebody in there. And good.
Thank you.
Cei deduse libertatea. Nu vă puteți imagina o onoare mai mare pentru acea vreme. Să fie omul de mijloc între unguri și saci. Conflictele acestora la așa ceva este ca și când ai avea propria planetă. Că unirea din Transilvania și a avut foarte mult pământ. În ciuda tuturor obstacolelor, Michael, ca un adevărat apărător al sașilor, se va lupta și în final va reuși să mențină toate aceste privilegii și să apere națiunea sașilor. Dinastia Păzăr a continuat mai apoi cu cei trei fii al lui Michael. O țară minune Slovaciei, un mândru flăcău frumos și puternic, dar care a murit de tânăr sărman. Nu a fost să fie mai mult în povestea lui.
Wir müssen kurz warten, bis es hier frei ist, dass wir da rennen, also jetzt nicht wundern.
Face parte din Consiliul Orașului în 2007, iar după 2 ani devine primar. Ăsta mic era leit taică-său. Apără drepturile sașilor ca judecător și în timp devine chiar un lider important care să reprezinte populația sașilor din Sighișoara și Transilvania. Pe urmă, primește cea mai mare onoare pe care un sas o poate accepta și devine reprezentantul Universității Sașilor la curtea regelui ungar, Vladislav al II-lea. Rege, căruia nu mică i-a fost mirarea să vadă copilul celui pe care le regalase cu ceva timp în urmă. Toate bune și frumoase până în anul 1914, când impozitele creșteau în toată Europa de mijloc și de est. Oamenii din aceste regiuni, sătui de astfel de măsuri, încep să se revolte, să protesteze și chiar să devină violenți. Spiritul de revoltă ajunge și în Transilvania, chiar în Sighișoara, așa că mulțimea furioasă, cu dor de sânge, se năpustește asupra lui Antoniu, primar la acea vreme. El va încerca să fugă și să se ascundă, dar niciodată nu poți fugi de propria soartă, așa că mulțimea îl găsește și îl bate până la moarte într-un cortez de găini unde acesta a ales să se ascundă. Nevastă sa a fost și ea omorâtă într-o casă din apropierea clădirii Mihai Eminescu din centrul orașului. Astfel, sfârșindu-se povestea acestei familii. Multe familii au mai fost, dar niciuna ca familia Polnă. Dar ce s-a întâmplat cu Schwarz? Acest lacon a trăit bine pe urmele lui Marco, au fost funcționari, dar după ce ei au luat tot, au și plecat, lăsându-l pe mâna unor supraviețuitori și nu aveau cum să uite faptele din ultima vreme. Supraviețuitorii le-au târât pe vârful unui acoperiș de unde a fost aruncat. Ce era altceva să faci cu un gunoi decât să-l arunci? Astfel a fost marcat sfârșitul trădării sale și un avertisment pentru oricine s-a gândit să facă același lucru. Haideți acum să ne aruncăm spre o nouă poveste. Teleportation successful. You have just traveled through space and time. We are now in the year 1601. Have you ever heard of Mihai Viteazul?
Stories about him can still be heard throughout the galaxy. Vitezul means the brave one, and I need to tell you that he was not given that name in vain. He was the first ruler to unite the three kingdoms of Wallachia, Transylvania, and Moldavia that existed in this region, even if it was only for a short time. As the ruler of those regions, he fought against the Ottoman army for many years, and there are still quite a few stories being told about his bravery. The united country would last for only a year, a time in which it was constantly trying to defend itself from the Ottoman Empire, the Hungarian Empire, and the Kingdom of Poland, but at least Mihai followed his dreams. But fighting the Ottoman army meant that he was forced to maintain a large army. A lot of money were needed, so he decided to raise taxes so that he could maintain the army. As no good deeds go unpunished, he was killed by the nobles of the time who were unhappy with the high taxes. Learn from him. You can fight with armies of thousands of people, but do not raise taxes. What the nobles did not know is that after the death of their ruler, Transylvania would become the battlefield between the Hungarian kingdom and the Ottoman Empire. Robberies, wars, plagues, and fires ensued. The first robbery began with Basta, the general sent by the Austrian Kaiser to assassinate and so solve the Mihai issue. Basta considered that he saved Sighișoara from a sad fate by eliminating the overwhelming taxation imposed by Mihai Viteazul, so in exchange he asked for 50 gold coins from Sighișoara for the total value of the theft was estimated at 500,000 gold coins, which is 10 times more than Basta asked for. This amount did not include the riches of the church and all the other undeclared values. But what happened to Schwartz? This greedy man lived as long as Mako's men had something to steal, but after taking everything, the soldiers left, leaving Schwartz in the hands of some survivors who could not forget or forgive his betrayal. The survivors dragged him on a roof from where he was thrown just like a sack of garbage. What to do with trash, then threw it away. This marked the end of his betrayal, and the war went doing something similar. Let's move on to a new story. Teleportation successful. We've traveled several centuries to meet a rather unconventional figure from the history of Sighișoara. Johann Schuler von Rosenthal was born in the 17th century in Sighișoara. As a child, he deported to Turkey where he studied the art of diplomacy together with several foreign languages. At that time, knowing even one foreign language was a great asset. Since the invention of the instant translator, we don't have this concern anymore, as we can communicate at ease with any species in the known universe. Bottom line, Schuler was one of the people that may come in handy at a certain point. He was appointed by the Sultan as the royal translator of the court, and after years of service, he moved back to Sighișoara. At the time, all the great cities in the region were paying yearly taxes to the Ottoman Empire. Knowing to speak the official language of the empire, as well as other languages, Schuler was selected by Sighișoara's council to join the toll wagons to Istanbul. On one of these journeys, he reaches the Holy Land, where Jerusalem is. From here, he brings back a rose as a sign of appreciation to Apafi, the ruler of Transylvania. This gesture did not go unnoticed, as Apafi made Schuler a nobleman by the name of Johann Schuler von Rosenthal. Rosenthal meaning the Valley of Roses. His family's coat of arms included a hand and 3 roses, as well as a quote, per spinas ad rosas, which were translated of roses. A rather thorny personality, this Rosenthal guy becomes very important for the inhabitants of Sighișoara. His intelligence, charm, but also his willpower quickly make him a star in Sighișoara. Thus, in 1700, he was elected mayor of Sighișoara. What does such a mayor look like? He walked around the city in gorgeous golden robes and was driven around in a horse-drawn carriage. He owned a luxurious villa full of expensive paintings, and he was one of the richest people in Transylvania. Wait, something doesn't seem right. How can you become rich as a public worker? Simple. By day he was Mr. Mayor, while by night he forged coins. In night long, strange noises could be heard from an illegal forge. Rosenthal was also a real Casanova of Sighișoara. Every young lady played by the rose and striped in a blind everywhere. Rosenthal swears on the Bible that he is innocent and escapes with only one small fine for negligence, but his main collaborators, Björn Forger and Carolin Matthie, the money courier, were beheaded and thrown into the fire. The rest of the accomplices are written up and expelled from the city by enraged citizens. Rosenthal gets a simple prison sentence, but he was thrown back into prison. A combination of low morale and fear made Rosenthal's life easy, and once again he was released under one condition: to change his behavior. But the old dog did not change his habits, not even a bit. You must know that, at the time, a nobleman could only be convicted by a council of nobles. Thus, after being detected, the Kaiser ordered an investigation, and if the allegations were untrue, Rosenthal would have been reinstated. But Hartenek wasn't resting either. He ordered a third investigation of the theft, but oh boy, Rosenthal knew how to steal. On the day Rosenthal was restrained, he had amassed 7,000 gold coins, 2 villas, 2 gardens, 2 vineyards, a beekeeping farm, 5 grazing fields, and 22 yoke farms, all of which accounted for only half of his fortune. At that time, there was no law punishing counterfeiting coins, so Rosenthal was charged under an old Roman law that granted beheading as punishment for such an act. On the day of his execution, Rosenthal waited on a red throne adorned with gold for the Kaiser's pardon. The pardon would have arrived just in time in the city, but because the Council of Sighișoara had given an order to keep all the gates closed, the messenger could not enter and arrive on time. Rosenthal was executed in the public square on the 28th of September 703, and his execution would be at the core of Hartenek's demise. You can't kill such an influential man and not expect repercussions. The Hungarian nobles, frightened by the power that Hartenek had acquired, used the action of not allowing the entry of messengers as a reason to get rid of him. Thus, on the 5th of December 703, Hartenek finds his head in a carriage driven by his father. With him died his plans to renew the tax system in Transylvania. Thus, the nobles of Transylvania got rid of the obligation to pay taxes to the local budgets. As usual, you can touch anything in this room, but do not touch the treasures of the nobles.
Es könnte sein, dass uns der Akku ausgeht, da nicht wundern. Wir haben noch einen Raum vor uns.
Teleportation successful. Or not? I think the teleporter had a malfunction. It took us back to the 17th century and would have to be around. These battles in poverty are accused and had long been killed by the angry nobles. Transylvania and Sighișoara were again midway between the first becomes Prince of Transylvania, a man of peace and harmony. He pleads for equal rights for Romanians and Saxons alike. After the death of the prince in 1648, his son, Georg Rakoč II, took over. A military man by profession, Rakoč II invades Poland with an army of 4,000 soldiers. Poland responds with an army of 100,000 soldiers. They invade Transylvania and destroy everything in their path, taking Rakoč II hostage and leaving only dust and death behind. After the removal of the prince from power, Transylvania becomes the new vassal state of the Ottoman Empire. The region is ruled by a Cassius Barksay, who is appointed by the Ottoman Grand Vizier, a kind of prime minister today. Shortly afterwards, in 1659, Rakoč II returned with the support of his loyal aristocrats and the Austrian Empire and tried to reclaim his position. This led to a split in the population of Transylvania. Some sided with Rakoč, while the others were on Barksay's side. This was the birth of a civil war that lasted more than. After his victory, Barksay sent messengers throughout Transylvania to spread the news of his victory. The tribal ended up being captured by an outraged crowd, as they did not want to accept Barksay's victory. In return, Barksay revenge on a responsible man in an ingenious but dark way. The organizers of the mutiny were sent by the citizens of Sighișoara to Târgu Mureș, where they were impaled and exposed on the an experienced and ruthless. In response, the Ottoman army launches a direct attack. First, the it was to build a very large swing with a high spike. Many fell to death in the spike. At night, the Ottomans walked around with glass masks and lit on their heads so that people would be scared of them and believe they were evil creatures. They also built a carousel in the public square between 4 houses. Valuable prizes were placed on these houses, which would be won. The bravest ones climbed onto the carousel built with ropes and were catapulted in the air with the help of 8 soldiers. The catch is that if they were able to touch any of the valuables, they could keep them. Many tried and just as many failed and paid with broken bones or even with their lives. You can try and see what you get if you want. After playing their games, filling their bellies and robbing the city of Sighișoara of all its riches, the Ottoman army decided to continue its journey on the 14th of May 1663. The chronicles described that the inhabitants of the city were amazed and at the same time scared of everything that was happening at the time. They were scared for their lives and did not hesitate to write down their experiences so that generations to come would know what they had survived. You can try these games for yourself, and if you succeed, you can move on to tell what you witnessed while sipping a delicious smoothie at the bar.